everyone. Today I have with me screenwriter, ghostwriter, writing coach, Sam Severn. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hey, Michelle. I'm doing awesome today. How are you doing?
I am so happy that you agreed to talk to me because when I asked you, I really didn't think you were going to say yes because I was thinking that you would say, well, that's not something that I really do because looking at your resume, I was like, well, maybe that's not really something he'd do. Oh, that was my phone. So anyway, making sure it doesn't crack. I'm so happy that you said yes because you are
No,
my first writing coach that I had. And as
yeah.
yeah, and
Seriously?
and you know what? Since you
Wow.
do so many things, I think it would be so interesting to talk to you about because I interview so many authors and so many new authors and so many authors that self publish that don't have editors and don't have writing coaches, which is
Right.
kind of a thing right
Right.
now, because of Amazon.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, let's see, where should we even start? First of all, you have helped to accomplish 4 #1 bestsellers, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy on
That's
itself.
crazy.
And were they New York Times bestsellers, by the way? Or Amazon?
The two Robert Beatty, Serafina books were #1 New York Times.
Look at that.
Yes.
Look at these
Yes.
covers.
Those two right there.
Look at these covers. I mean, they are beautiful. This is the first one because it's come out in paperback already. This is the second one. He's got a third one coming out. Are you a part of the third one also?
Yes, ma'am. I'm
So-
very happy to be very proud to be part of that one.
Were these the first that you've done?
As
a
not the
great
first
coach?
I've done not as a consultant, it was, and as a writing coach, yes, absolutely. The very first Serafina book, Serafina and the Black Cloak, was when Robert Beatty, the author, was he contacted me through a website called The Alliance, which is no longer, but used to be a freelance writing, editing, creative website for people to post jobs, get jobs. He happened to contact me. He had, I think, 20 pages of the book with a much different opening than it has now. I'm not even sure the character was named Serafina at that time. It had the same feel, but it was very poetic. It was very dark, and it was for children. I thought, this is really cool. It's really dark. It's very poetic. It's not what you would imagine the market to be for children right now. And I was just really entranced by it. And so he had to publish it at that point. He was just asking for some feedback. I think he asked 3 or 4 other people for some feedback on it. I just kind of rolled into reading it, and I wrote notes all over the darn place about everything I loved, everything I hated, if there were anything, because I want to be really, truly, brutally honest about it. And for some reason, he ended up liking my recommendations and contacted me when he did this. So he published the first one. It became a bestseller. It was published by Disney, Hyperion,
Yes, I saw that on
which is crazy. And, I mean, that's just insane.
So people can see it. Yeah, I saw that down
Yeah.
there. That is crazy. Crazy.
That's cool. That's just so cool.
Which leads me to think, are they going to make a movie? Like, do you think there's a chance?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're totally cinematic. I think they would be just, if you want to do stop motion animation or something, like Tim Burton has done with Nightmare Before Christmas or something like, it would lend itself to such a like a dark vision of that, but something that's very childlike too.
Right.
To get to that place like where Bambi goes, where it's a very childlike, dark place, which is kind of scary, but it's something we can all relate to. I think it'd make a great movie. All of them would.
When I saw
and it was
that,
with
I was
Disney,
like,
so.
oh, that's cool. I didn't even know they were doing that. I didn't even know they were publishing like that, So that's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know that either. It was all new to me. I was like brand new on the website. I didn't know who he was. He hadn't published a book at that point. He was just looking for some feedback on a few pages. And it kind of blossomed into a relationship of that was like the first step on the ladder of the stairway to becoming a writing coach, was somebody asking my opinion and then taking that and publishing it, which was like very inspiring to me.
Yeah.
To think that my words had some power, I guess. That my opinion mattered.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about what you do, and I was like, there's got to be some satisfaction in that. A lot of people aren't using, editing or writing coaching or whatever, but if you were actually helped him and like your opinion about different things, and he took it and wrote and and gave you credit for it, and I think that would be really cool job personally. I think that's
I
really
think so too. Anytime you're helping somebody, with a creative project in any way, even if it's your wife and you're giving her feedback, if it's your son or your daughter, if it's your neighbor, if it's somebody you've never met, if somebody you met on the internet, anytime you're helping somebody, it's such a blessing. It's such a great calling, to be able to not just coach or teach or share wisdom or not lack thereof sometimes, just to be able to share with people and help them on their path. I think it's such a great calling.
Yeah.
And it's something I think it's really richly needed, especially in the creative arts, because everybody's so isolated now with the internet. People connect like this, but they don't connect in the way that they used to with writers groups and seeking feedback and the whole editorial, like you were talking about. All those things are gone now, and writers are much more isolated. It always has been a lonely profession, and it is way more lonely now, I think.
I know. I was trying to
you really are existing.
Yeah, and I just, what came to my mind is when it's J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and two other writers had a writing group, and they had a name.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the name. It's slipping the tip of my tongue. But they used to meet every Monday, and then they pass their stuff around. What'd you write this week? And right. How cool was that? I mean, that group.
Exactly. Like in the 20s, Hemingway and all those yes. great writers from the early 20th century. They all knew each other. They all hung out. They all shared notes. They all critiqued. And that's on the highest level
yes.
of sharing wisdom and learning from each other. That's so important.
Yeah.
I learn from everybody I meet, everybody I work with. I learn, I think, more than the person I'm sharing, my feelings about a manuscript. I learn much more because I learn about somebody else's point of view, which is so much of what writing is really, you're sharing your point of view, how you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I gain more from my clients, from the people I've worked with than they could ever, I guarantee, than they could ever glean from me.
Oh.
So it's a blessing to be, for that to be a calling to help other people in addition to writing, which is that's what I love to do. That's what I was born to do. But to be able to coach other people is just crazy. It's just crazy. I can't believe I actually get the opportunity to do that.
Aww.
I never thought I would to.
Yeah.
And now it's like I crave it, like it's a Snickers bar, on steroid or something.
Oh, and then so then I saw something crazy, and I have to ask you this. So you also helped Jeff Knight. He wrote The Revved Life. That was another #1 book. But I saw on the cover, and I don't have it with me because I just had seen that you did it, that there is a foreword by a man by the name of Ed Young. And I wanted to know if it is the Ed Young, as in Pastor Ed Young from Texas.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you are good. You are so good. You do your research.
No, I didn't.
That's awesome.
I know.
That's who Ed Young is.
I know about him. I mean, I've followed him for a long time, forever, too long. So when I saw that, I was like, wait, how many Ed Youngs are there? Would he really be doing a foreword for a book? But he did. So now I know it was him. He's a cool guy. I don't know, but I love him. I love him. I follow him.
I think there's an Ed Young who did who was in Mr. Ed. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got my celebrities wrong. Anyway, it's not that Ed Young.
Right, it's not.
It's Pastor.
It is Pastor Ed Young, and he's a very known pastor from Texas. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
huge.
Yeah, he's got a huge following, huge church.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So so good. So then I knew that. That was awesome. And then you did another one, Dan. You say the name. Dean
Dimitrievsky.
Okay. And he had Tears for My City. So those are your 4 that you've done. So do you have any in the works right now besides, I guess you have the 3rd one for...
The 3rd Serafina book will be coming out this summer.
Right. And do you have any others in the works besides those going on that we should look for?
Mostly I have movie projects, which is cool. Some I can't talk about because I ghost wrote on them, which is cool. I mean, actually, it's actually cool that I can't talk about it because it's just cool to have a secret, that you can't share with people. So I have a couple that were ghost written projects that were taken, and they're now going to be made. I have one I just finished a screenplay project that is a true story. I can't actually talk about. My name is going to be on the screenplay that we're going to take to Hollywood. It's by. That's right. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Gosh, you're good. Dang.
I was like,
That's
wait a
right.
second, that sounds familiar. Yes, so that one, right? Because I went on your website and I read a lot of articles on you. So okay, yeah, go ahead, tell us what that is because that sounds cool.
So that's a really cool. Oh my gosh! So that is the story of Mike Elliott, who was or is, excuse me, an engineer on the. I don't know if I can name the railroad. Let me think here. He's an engineer on a very famous Western railroad. I don't think it's in any of the notes because we fictionalized it.
Oh, okay.
To stay out of
yeah,
trouble.
I don't have the name of it either. So.
Right. So we took his true story.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an engineer who saw safety violations on railroad and reported them to his higher ups, and they said, look the other way. Don't pay attention to that. We've got it. They didn't make any changes. He went higher up and reported the safety problems, and was then persecuted, was fired, was beat up, was put in jail for reporting the safety violations. And then went to court to sue the railroad, won $1.25 million, $1.25 million in a lawsuit in late 2015, and is still trying to get the money from the railroad because they're dragging it through the courts. They're still working on getting the safety violations taken care of. They're still out there. So we're trying to tell. He wants to tell his story because he feels like the public needs to know that the railroads are not as safe as they would like them to be. There are a lot of problems. It's really when I heard his story, I thought of Serpico. Did you ever see that movie or read the book? The Pacino movie.
Yeah.
Like it's totally the same. It's like. There's a corrupt system. There's somebody who's a whistleblower who's saying, "Hey, there's problems here. I see them. Everybody just keeps it under the carpet, and he keeps trying to go higher and higher in the system and sees more and more problems and gets more and more persecution. And it's that template of that same kind of a story of somebody trying to do the right thing,
right.
and
like
their life is at risk and like what?
Aaron Brockovich. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, Aaron Brockovich. Totally. Aaron Brockovich, like Norma Ray. The Insider with,
yeah. But so did you have to fictionalize it? Is that what you're saying? You had to fictionalize it?
So we fictionalized, but it's based on a true story. So we kept as much as we could of the true story. We changed names. We changed the railroad's name. We brought in some characters to bring in a love story. To give to round up, make the story bigger. I'm sure there was a love story in his life, but he didn't want to ever go there, so we kind of had to bring in that.
Right.
So that one part I know is fictionalized. I don't know how much, but that one's fictionalized. But we tried really hard to stay to the truth because the truth was really powerful, and the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. You can't get any more powerful than the truth.
There's always stories in the truth too. There's always great stories in the truth. So.
There's always backstories to the stories. The truth is always better than anybody can imagine.
Right.
And the deeper you go, it's the darker you get, the better the story is too.
So how far along is that in the process of? Is that in pre-production? Post? We
just finished the screenplay. And we're going to. Mike has some contacts in Hollywood that we're going to take it to. And then start shopping it. We have some production companies that we want to hit first off that have done similar movies like that. In fact, the one that we're going to hope to go to first is Participant Media. They did Spotlight. Again, a similar movie. Did you see Spotlight about the Catholic Church and the allegations of sexual violations of boys? So that was Best Picture winner last year. So it's,
Oh,
again, a
okay.
very,
Yes. Yes.
very
Okay.
similar story.
Yes.
Yeah, Michael Keaton. And
Yes.
so
I'm not
that's
good
where we
with the
really want to go.
titles.
They've done, yeah. So that's where we want to go.
That's
We want to
awesome.
find somebody who is brave enough to take something that's risky material,
Right.
because it's taking on the railroad, which is an American institution. I mean, it's one of the oldest and the biggest American institutions there is.
Right.
And so that's not something Hollywood normally wants to do. To make a risky project that puts them at risk too.
Right. But
They
then
just want to make money for the most.
Yeah, and look at the rewards from the other movies that have been about that too. So
Yeah,
that's crazy.
When you do, like, the rewards are huge. The movies are huge. They're unforgettable too.
Right, exactly. So when you I have a ghostwriting question, because I interviewed a woman who was a ghostwriter for novels. Okay, and then she was like,
Yes.
"Oh, I've sold 400 million novels, but I can't tell you who they were, what they were." So, and I was like, doesn't that just suck? Like, doesn't that? So, what do you think? Because you seem to be happy about it. So, I mean, is there really a great side to it that writers should look for? Is there like a real, like you said, you like the secret of it, but I mean, is there something to that you're like, I like doing this, and
I'll tell you what I like about it. I'll tell you, because being a ghostwriter helped me to overcome my writing problems. My writing problems stemmed from, I was always somebody who, I was way into my own material, and I would censor it. I would never finish anything. I'd edit it constantly. I'd change it. I'd write something, instantly change it. I would never get to completion on something. And that haunted me for decades, and I'm not kidding. Decades and decades of writing things, starting over, and never finishing anything. And when God blessed me to become a ghostwriter, I realized this is my opportunity to do what I actually love best, which is help other people make their dreams come true. That's what I love best about ghostwriting, because you're always meeting someone who has a vision for something, for a story, for their life story, for a screenplay or a book, a memoir, a cookbook sometimes, but they've got a dream. And they need somebody to be the bridge to help them get it out there to the world. And I think that's that's a miracle to have somebody come to you and say, hey, I trust you with my dream. I'm gonna hand this to you, and you're going to be the bridge that's going to help me get it out there. So you're really learning how to give to surrender to someone else's dream, and to be part of it, really to be the steward for it. You're the shepherd of it. You're the servant to it, and you're the protector of it. I feel, you're protect. If you have a dream for something, I have to be the protector of that dream. I can't go, well, you know what? I think this is a better idea. Let me rewrite it for you, and turn it into mine. You have to focus so deeply on the other person's dream, and making that come true, that you go to a place that you don't. As a writer, for me, I could never get to in my own things. Because it enabled me to surrender all of the self-censoring, all of the worry and doubt, because I really trusted in the other person's vision, and I trusted that I was a better steward for someone else's work than I have been for my own work, because I cared about the other person, and I really wanted to help them climb that mountain and get to the top of it and see it with them. So that's how I've always viewed ghostwriting. Again, it wasn't something I ever wanted to do. It's the opposite of what I wanted to do, because, in my lack of humility, I wanted all the glory, for writing it and having my name above the title if I could. And this is I have to surrender to not having my name in it. Not in many cases, not even getting any recognition for it, but doing all the hard work, doing all the love. And all the craft and all the stuff I love about writing in the service of somebody else. So I think for me it was a perfect marriage, the perfect calling, because it's enabled me to learn how to be a better writer by taking off the chains that I was bound by, which were self-censoring and editing endlessly, and just not having, I think, the guts and the courage to finish something. With ghostwriting, I know I have to finish it.
Yeah, and it's
that's
really
cool.
like the ego. Like, you have to take your ego out of it, So then that
Exactly.
helps, because
That's huge for me. That was the hugest. That was the impediment to everything for me, was my ego getting in the way of everything. This way, I surrender my ego immediately.
mm-hmm.
I'm blessed that the people I've been able to work with have allowed me to share in some of it and to see it do great things. And in some cases to have some small credit in the book. But that's beyond what I would ever ask for, because again, I want to see their work go out and do great things. That's my goal. That's my dream. When somebody trusts me with it, man, I just want to see it go out there and burn up the bestseller list. I want to see great things just like they do.
That's awesome. What is the difference between ghostwriting and editing something, though? Is there? It seems like it's a fine line, between taking their work and editing it, or actually writing their concept. I guess
Right.
they give you like a concept,
Right.
and then you write their concept. Okay.
Right. Sometimes ghostwriting is always, every single one is different. Every one of them is different.
Okay.
Sometimes it is somebody will have a one paragraph or one sentence idea, and they'll say, I want you to help me develop this. You can have free reign to take it wherever you want, but just let me see the pages as they're coming in, and I can give you feedback on it and see if you're on the right path. Some clients have a gigantic outline. They know exactly what they want it to be, and it's really just following that and building that machine or that thing, that creation. Many times it's also somebody has written something. They've already written a whole manuscript, and they just feel like it's all over the place. They can't see what they've got many times.
Right.
They'll have written the whole thing. I'm sure it's similar to where I was. You write something for so long that you can't see it any longer.
Right.
You can't see what's great about it. You can't see where the problems are anymore. And so you really need somebody with a clear vision to come in and look at it and take it apart if they need be, but to be brutally honest and lovingly honest, and help you to see how you can get it to where you want to get it. And that's more, I think, what I've seen are people who've either started on the manuscript, gotten partway through, or written the whole thing and just feel lost. They can't see it anymore, and they want somebody to come in and either edit the whole thing or sometimes edit and ghostwrite parts of it. And I think more that's where the coaching is just really comes in beautifully, because a lot of times you're really helping. I've had projects where somebody will ask me to have a whole manuscript. They'll ask me to ghostwrite over their writing because they're just not. They feel very self-conscious about their writing, and so more than often I have found that by the middle of the process they're seeing they're inspired to start writing on their own. Because they see how somebody can just take a little. It's really usually not much you're changing. Mm-hmm. It's really just the confidence to see that the story is there, and the writing is really secondary to the story. And so they start letting go of their own the chains that are holding them down. And they think, what? I think I can do this now. Let me take a whack at it. And they start taking over the project and with coaching. And that's where I am on one I can think of right now. I'm working on is I have an author who's already published one book. He'd written, I think, 40,000 words of a second book. It's a Christian business book, mm-hmm. And he just feels lost. He feels like the material. The first one he wrote came very easily. This one he's just lost. He feels like he doesn't know where he's going with it. So he's asked me to take a look at the material he's written and kind of coach him through writing it with some structure, because he doesn't feel like it has structure. And I think that's where coaching just is an immense help, because you're able to tell somebody, hey, this is really, really good stuff. Mm-hmm. It's really good. You know the material. And if you just usually if you move something around, like it's a Lego piece or something, put it here instead of here, it starts to come together. And again, people, other writers are the worst critics usually. And when you're able to help somebody say, hey, you're really a good writer. You're really good. You just don't. You need to trust in yourself a little bit more. And that just most people aren't used to hearing that. And that's usually the balm that they need to kind of come out of their shell and it lifts them up enough to start feeling like they can do it. That it gives them confidence. And I think that's what I love about coaching. Probably the best is you're just trying to inspire somebody to know that they can do this, that they don't really need a ghostwriter.
Oh.
You know, I think that's when I feel like I've done my job, is if I'm not necessary, if I've talked and helped somebody say, you know what, you can do this, you can do it, you're going to do a better job than me because you know the material. It's inside of you. You just have to bring it out. That's when I know I've done my job, if I'm not necessary anymore. And I mean, that's a great feeling to not be necessary.
Right. And that's so true, because screenwriting especially, I mean, it's such you've got 120 pages. There's such a formula, and I know every rule, you know, I know there's different things, but it really is a formula. And I've heard screenwriters say, like, sometimes you get to the second act, you've written yourself into this corner, and you don't know where to go
Right.
from there.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
don't know. So that to me makes a lot of sense, because I think screenwriting is so, like, they can get so caught up if they didn't outline right, and if they didn't, you know, and if they didn't follow the right steps. And sometimes people just write, you know, like they just write because it's so in them, they don't really take the time to outline. And then when you get to a certain point, then you're kind of stuck, and you're like, oh, how did I get here? You know?
You sound like you've done screenwriting.
I did. I've written some, but nothing I've published, but because I didn't think they were that good. But I do love doing it because it is so fun. Like, I love using Save the Cat, and I love using Sid Fields.
Totally, yeah.
You know, and I do love, not that I've always wanted to write a novel, but to me, screenwriting is so, like, I don't know, it's easier in my brain to think it that way, and not so many words. So, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Screenwriting is I think it's like you take the essence of writing. It's the skeleton. All you need is the skeleton, and you can tell the great story. You don't have to do all the work of describing, you know, the hillside and the house and the dog. You know, you write, you know, the dog enters, and that's all you have to do. It's so cool because it's really it boils it down to just story.
Yeah.
Just story. It just and that's that's what I love about screenwriting. I mean, I would like to talk to you about that when we get done too. Actually, I want to talk to you about your screenplays.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. No, really, seriously, I do.
Okay. So anyway, so when I was on your website, and I love finding my joy in doing this is finding nuggets of things that I can relate to you about, like things from my life that I can relate, and I look for them, and sometimes I find them, sometimes I don't until I talk to them. But I found yours. I found your nugget.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So I'm on your website, and you know, and I'm seeing the other books. And first of all, you have a beautiful website. I don't know who designed it, but it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it. It's so
totally.
Some of them are so
Wix.com.
confusing. You know, what is it?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's just Wix.com. I don't know. I don't know.
It's
some of those free websites.
I go on a lot of websites, and I have a hard time maneuvering. But yours is so laid out, so nice. But anyway, I saw you had a category, and it said faith-based books. And I was like,
yes.
Oh, are one of these faith-based? But then I went on, and the name of it is Starting Point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so.
Very cool.
I got pregnant as a teenager in high school, okay? And it was back, you know, I'm going to date myself because I'm 52, but this was back in the 80s, early 80s, okay? And there was, even though, coincidentally, my mother had me at 16, so it kind of, you know, followed through a little bit. But anyway, even though we had that history, my family was a little bit dysfunctional in that nobody talked to me about it. Nobody. It was so not a thing that we talked about. I can't even tell. Like, it's like looking back on it, I'm like, you know, because I have hindsight on it. I'm like, that was just because I have 6 children. I have daughters. You know, I wouldn't just ignore them. You know, and I was like, how awesome is it that you got this book out there, and you know, I didn't get to see it, so I'd like to hear more about it. But my story was that, you know, my family was very supportive of the little that we talked about it. It was like, okay, I was going to have the baby, right? But the dad, was a year younger than me, my boyfriend, his family, not having any of it. Okay, not. Because he was a year younger than me. And their family convinced my family that it was all just a bad idea, and so I had an abortion. It went horrible. I got ended up in the hospital for a very long time. It was horrible.
Sorry.
But I didn't have, yeah, I know. But when I saw that, I was like, as much as it's still like in this day and age, like I said, I could talk to my daughters about it. I think it's easier. I think my parents didn't know what to do with me, even though they had experienced the same thing. I think it's awesome that you got a book out there about it, because if I could have read a book about it, I was a reader. Like, I wish I could have read a book about it, that would have, because I didn't have time to process. I didn't have time to think. I didn't know what it entailed. I knew I had this situation, but I didn't know what it was going to be like. And I went on to have 6 children, and, I praise God for that, because I wasn't supposed to, and I ended up doing that, and everything worked out okay. But when I saw that, it's like, of course, like you have this book, and it's totally relatable to me. So I want to hear like how that all came about.
Cool. Wow, that's cool. Well, first of all, that is so cool that you shared all of that very vulnerable stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well,
God bless you for that. That's awesome. I mean, that's amazing. And it's amazing that you pointed. I totally forgot about that one. That Starting Point comes out. It's supposed to come out this month. Published by Redemption Press, which also published The Rev Life by Jeff Knight.
And I wondered that. I wondered if it was somehow related to The Rev Life.
It was.
Okay.
So what happened, I think Tiffany Stadler, who I have never met in my life, it's one of those people that you meet through the internet and you talk to on the phone or Skype, but I've never met her in person. I'd love to meet her in person someday. So I guess from what I gather, she read The Rev Life. She, I think, used to go to the Rock Church, which is the church of Jeff Knight in Monroe, Washington. She was very inspired by his book, and she reached out to me somehow through email, if I remember correctly, and said, hey, I really love The Rev Life. I have always felt like God wanted me to write a story, my story, about being an unwed teen mom, but also to gather and collect other young women who've had the same story, who've gone on that same journey, and how they dealt with it. I feel like there are young women who need that right now. And I don't know how to do it. I've never written anything in my life. I've never published a book. I barely read, but I just know this is what I've been called to do. So what do I do? Where do we go? How do we do this? Mm-hmm. And it developed into, something where my wife, Sally Rubel, was also one of the contributors to The Rev Life. She was one of the editors with me. She, I believe, if I remember correctly, started a conversation with Tiffany Stadler about her history and about what she wanted to do. They felt really super comfortable with each other, and Tiffany felt like, I feel like I can do this book. I feel like it's time. I don't know where the money's going to come from. I don't know where the time's going to come from, because she has teenage children now. But I know I've got to do this in one way or the other. So we spent about a year, if I'm correct. She would compile stories from friends that she knew who had also been unwed teen mothers. I believe it's ended up with 16 stories from friends, from family, and they just sent their stories into her. Each one of them is as vulnerable as you can possibly be. They tell everything. They tell their emotions. They tell about either the abortion they had before or after, or like you said, the young teenage father whose family didn't want them to be any part of it. I mean, that's like part of the storyline in almost every one of them, is the father who didn't want to be there. They're all, so young. They've got their whole life ahead of them. They struggle with how they can do this, how they can, what the change it's going to make in their life. And it's just a gripping, each one is it's like a movie in itself when you read about what each one of these young women went through, the pain and the shame and the heartbreak and all the decisions that come. And it's cool because you see in each of the 16 stories, it's like life plays itself out in the same pattern in each one of them. They each have different circumstances. They each come from different places in America, but the story tells itself in the same way, and it's so inspiring. And part of the other cool thing about it is each one of these women in some part of their life gave their life to Jesus Christ, to God, and said, I need God in my life. I need something bigger. I need something that can give me strength through my journey. And so that becomes a part of the book as much as their journey through being a young mother. is their journey, then the next journey to find a father who can help them, with the rest of their lives. And I think, and so it's just, it's a huge, she had a huge undertaking, Tiffany Sadler, to compile all of these stories to edit them, to help each one of these women find their voice, because again, these weren't writers. They're just young women with a story to tell. So they each had I'm sure they had their own struggle with telling their story and getting it down on paper or a keyboard or however they did it. And
absolutely,
it's like 16 people going through a journey to tell their story. Imagine one person telling their story to try to write a book. It's 16 people with the same struggle, and it was like a gigantic mountain for Tiffany Sadler to climb, because not only was she trying to tell her story, but she had to continually inspire other people to tell and go get vulnerable and go to the dark past, and yet to tell stories of hope.
Right.
Because at the end, there's always, in each of these, there's hope, there's a way out, there's a better life that they could not see at that moment. And I think that's where she really is trying to come from in the book to be able to hand out to young mothers, or to young mothers to be, is that, look, there's hope right now. Right. You don't see it, but there's a way out of this. There's a way out, and you're going to make it.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the Christian author, Stephen. I'm trying to think of his last name. Wow. I'm getting old. But anyway, he wrote he wrote a lot of books for men, but he also then wrote a book. He had paid for an abortion when he was in college. A girlfriend of his wanted an abortion. He paid for it, okay? Years later, realizing what he had done, so he started touring, and I went to go see him, and I got to talk to him, and it was amazing. And I can't think of the man, that so drives me crazy. I wish I would have looked it up before I didn't even think of it. So anyway, but I don't personally know a woman my age who has not gone through an abortion. Okay?
Right.
But we never talked to each other. We just found out about it in adulthood. Right. Okay?
Right.
It was that nobody knew I was pregnant. Nobody in high school knew it. I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant. Nobody knew it. But the hardship, some of us had children. Some of us never went on to have children. But we all went through, when I talked to them, we all went through the same shame, the same pain of having our first baby and realizing that realization, because until then it's not that real until you give birth. Yeah. And then it's another layer. It's like it's layers upon layers. But never did anybody say to me at that time, it was a Romeo and Juliet story. Like you said, it's so like the man doesn't want it. And you're like, I love him so much. Okay, I'll give him this gift. I won't make him a dad at 16, and I'll sacrifice me and my feelings for him and his feelings. And then you walk away and you're like, I am the hero of this story. And then you feel like it at that age. You do feel like a hero. And my passion, someday, who knows, I always pictured myself in a setting that I'd be able to tell women before that 10 weeks or whatever they're allowed, like, don't be the hero. There's no hero in this story. There's no hero. This is a temporary solution. How do you say that? Temporary solution to a permanent. Is that what it is? To a permanent, So when I saw that, I was like, yes, that really clicks with me, because teenage girls still to this day, and maybe even more, because abortion is even more acceptable today. Like back in my day, like I said, nobody talked about it. But now, I don't even know if the girls go through the exact same thing, because it's kind of accepted, but then they have their own inside horror that they're going through. It might be accepted in society and people might, but that does not change what you're going through, So.
That's right. Now, the scars are still the same. They still have the same scars, the same emotional scars.
Yes.
The same, again, it's such a dark thing, in somebody's life, and you can't just put it aside without it paying a price at some point.
Right. And I was raised in church. I was
Christian. It does.
It didn't matter, because the love story took over. because you're 16 and this guy's telling you he loves you and you're like, it's so confusing. You don't know what to do, you know? So anyway, I'm really happy that when I saw that, I was like, yes, that really relates to me. And I'm
that's so cool.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I'll get to talk to her too.
That's cool. Yeah, I will hook you up with Tiffany for sure.
Yeah.
That would actually be a cool one because I would love to hear her story from the other side. I only know it from her communicating to us. I'd love to know how she got to the place where she reached out to us.
Yes.
That's a whole journey right there.
Right.
That's the cool thing about writing. It's such a journey just to get to the point where you say, you know what, I'm going to write this. That's a whole movie right there.
Yeah.
Just the whole journey people take, because writing is so hard.
Yeah.
It's such a struggle. It's like a battlefield to write something. And the battle is really just to get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm brave enough, I'm going to do it now. And then the next battle starts. Mm-hmm. But I'd love to know Tiffany's story.
Yeah.
Man, I would love to hear it. That should be a great book in itself because it's hard to tell.
Yes.
You know, the dark truths and all of this stuff.
Yeah, well, there's
it's
so
hard
much
place
shame.
to get to that.
Yeah, there's so much shame attached to it, you know. Like I said, it's, you know, that's why it's hard. That's why it's hard to tell. But this is, I think this book is about women who actually had the babies, right? I mean, they actually went and became teen moms.
Oh,
yeah. So, you know, and I give them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Some did have abortions at some, like that was the first step. And then the next step was they had children the next time. But there are abortions in it also. I think one of the stories, if I remember correctly, one of the first stories in the book tells about the young woman and her boyfriend going to an abortion clinic and walking in, and there were protesters, I think, in front of the abortion clinic that day, and they decided not to go through with it. But it's that's the whole, you know, you can feel the shame already just from being there and having people witness her walking in, you know, and it's such a journey. It's such a great story in pain, you know, and that you can share with others and help them make it through their own pain and make better decisions for their lives.
Yes,
that's cool. I think that's really cool that you identify with that.
Yeah, is the guy named Stephen Etheridge? Did you ever hear of him? That's kind of ringing a bell.
I have heard of that.
It's bothering me that I can't remember his name because let me tell you, that man did amazing work. You know, like going around and speaking when he did, and you know, he helped a lot of people. So I think it was. Maybe I'll remember it at some point, and I'll let you know. But whatever.
Totally.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm so happy that I got in touch with you. This was so much fun, and I'm really glad. I hope we can, you know, keep in touch, and you know, I'd love to hear what goes on with your projects, and you know, get them out there and put them on media, and you know, all that fun stuff.
I am going to make you a project. I want to help you. I want to hear screenwriting, and
awesome.
I'm just now you've got me wondering about your journey because you must have had a journey to get to this point where you're reaching out and to writers and you know, asking people their stories. You have a story also, I'm sure, that got you to this point. So now I'm curious about that story because there's a great story there to be told.
Oh yeah, there's lots of.
So I want to hear that one.
Awesome. Well, it's been so nice talking to you. We will talk about it. I will tell you.
It's been a blast.
Excuse me? I'm sorry. We were cut off.
It's just been a blast. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me just to be here with you. Thank you for sharing an hour with me or however long it's been. It feels like about 4 minutes.
I know, it does. And I looked at the time and I was like, oh, you know, my son edits these for me, so he always gets a little mad when they get up to an hour range because they get so voluminous on YouTube and, you know. So he's always like, you got to keep it under an hour, Mom. You got to keep it under an hour. Okay, I'll try. So anyway, yeah, it was, and we will talk. We'll talk off camera. So anyway, it was so. Okay, go to your anybody who's listening, go to his website, samsevern.com. Go to that website. You can find out anything, especially if you want help with writing. If you just want to look at the books and get the books are amazing, and you know. I highly suggest, and you're also on LinkedIn, and are you on Facebook? I found you on LinkedIn, I think.
Oh yeah. On Facebook and LinkedIn.
And all that stuff that we're going to link to the end of this
Look me
video.
up. Look me up.
Yes. So.
Yeah, I'm here. I will help anybody who's a writer. I love writers. I think it's the greatest calling in the whole world. It's a storyteller, and I think, gosh, we need storytellers so badly right now. So it's just an honor to talk to you about it, and to see all the others you've had on your website. It's just fantastic. So thank you for all the work you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I'll talk to you.